flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sonia, would you mind doing roll call?
Yep, Commissioner Wire,
Here.
Commissioner Shaw,
Here.
Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for today.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgements, being no consent calendar or unfinished business under new business. Public hearing for the temporary alcohol license for the 10th annual gala for St. Thomas School and Knights of Columbus, November 4th, 2023. Is there anyone here that wants to speak on that? Seeing none, I'll move on to number 2. Approve temporary retail alcohol license for the 10th annual grand gala for the St. Thomas School and Knights of Columbus, November 4th, 2023. Any questions, comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Make the motion to approve the alcohol license for the St. Thomas. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, number 3. Budget open. Turn that over to Sonia and James.
Goodness gracious. Okay.
I sound good on both of their recordings.
So in front of you, you have a packet of information that's just kind of compares 2024 to 2023. For each of the funds that we have within the city, the first column or set of columns is going to be your operating budget. The next part is going to be our capital expenditures. And then the third portion of that is the debt. If you look through, you'll scroll down to the operating budget, you're going to see that we have an increase of approximately 2.8 million from 22.2 million to 25, just shy of 25 million. Employee expenses are 5.5% of that. That's the COLA and step that you guys have already discussed. We'll have 2 new positions that we're proposing, a marketing coordinator and then a restricted use site coordinator or operator. I'm not sure where that will fall, but those are the only 2 full-time employees currently projected to add to 2024. There is additional increases in some seasonal part-time staff for various park areas with our new pond and the new First Bank and Trust Old Runnings building. We've added some staff there to help out seasonally. And then the majority of that increase is honestly supplies and inventory as things get harder to get and their availability is limited. Pretty close to 1.8 million of that is supplies and inventory. Yeah. Within the budget, I will put the detail up on the website so that you can look through them if you want, or look through to get the detail on things that you're interested in. I will note I created 3 new departments for 2024. IT had fallen under city administration and we created a separate department for that. You're not going to see detail in the packets that you've got. It'll be about 128 page PDF that'll go up on the website and that I can send to you as also. And then there's a new department for marketing and then also a new department for the Runnings building. We have a separate department for the armory for tracking those expenses. We'll do the same thing with the old Runnings building. And then we also created 1 new fund for 2024, and that's for the electrical upgrade for substations and transformer lines that we'll be seeing over 2024 and forward for a while. So you'll see those when you go into and look at all that documentation. But that's essentially where we're at for operating expenses, about 2.8 million more than last year, but a good chunk of that is supplies and materials and inventory that we'll be keeping on hand as opposed to waiting for it to come in, especially with all the electrical projects that are coming up.
Did we budget for any new like furniture, things like that for the new city admin building?
There is, and when we get into capital expenditures, that's in there. Yep. Then the next column on there is capital expenses. You'll see 2023, we had approximately 27 million in capital projects. We're at 33.2 million for 2024. In that capital expenditure is approximately 15 million of that is water sewer projects that are still ongoing. We have repairs to the community center in there and if you look at the second page, go down 3 pages, there's more of a breakdown of those capital projects by department. You'll see, I staple them in backwards, sorry. So under general government building, that's primarily community center. It's about a little over 400,000. Those are projected. We don't have final numbers from DSU on that yet. Mental note, don't schedule meetings for Friday at noon.
Probably the fire chief's fault.
It's probably, yeah, we should have a conversation with him beforehand. And I won't go through every line item on here for capital expenditures, but more of the larger projects. Public Works Building, we'll be doing some upgrades and repairs there. If you go down to the restricted use site, that's the second payment for the contract for deed is the land amount. And then improvements are to build out that new cell. So we'll have some expenses in there. Airport this year will be primarily design work. They kind of stagger it every other year. They do construction in 1 year, design in the next. The majority of that comes from FAA and the state DOT. So our portion of that is actually quite little. Library improvements, they did some painting and other stuff, painting, carpeting and stuff this year to the children's section. They had originally planned to do that to the adult section next year. We have moved that back to 2025. They need a new sidewalk, an ADA compliant sidewalk. They've got a lot of it breaking away and they're estimating that to be pretty close to $50,000. So we've just moved that back a year. Parks and forestry. I think that's the other part of that building, repairs. Am I correct on that, Mike?
What's that?
The parks and forestry.
I don't have anything that they're building, they're on their own budget line item.
Would the bathrooms fall into that?
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Oh,
Yep.
so, yeah, so the.
That's what it is.
Parks is 2 bathrooms, the ones that were in Totland, the sewer and water are done with the RV project, and then there's one at Memorial Park.
And that's a project that's been planned and budgeted in the past. We struggled to get contractors and just with timing of projects going on. So it's essentially a carryover from the current budget.
And waiting for road development, water main and sewer mains to go in. And all that stuff.
Sorry.
If you special maintenance fee, that's that dollar per foot or $1.10 per foot that we charge for that frontage foot that we use for road improvement. So there's 360,000 there. The creek mitigation project has been on for at least the last couple of years. We keep budgeting for it and we just can't ever get them to approve it. So it just stays on there. That is primarily funded by FEMA and the state. They'll fund that, assuming it happens in 2024. They'll do an interim loan, 0% interest. It'll probably be a couple of years before we get the reimbursement back from FEMA after it's done. But that's what that looks like, assuming we actually get to do it. City Hall construction, we budgeted approximately $5.5 million in 2023. We're projecting that to be probably $6 million for 2024. So that's pretty close to. The electric transformer upgrade, the majority of that isn't going to start until 2025, but we'll be getting supplies and stuff in and paying for part of that as we go along. So part of that is in 2024. You'll see a lot more of that in 2025 and going forward. And then you can see water and sewer. Those are our current SRF project as well as the new SRF project for Eakin Avenue. So those are both built into that. That we are currently looking at taking out debt for. But I know Ryan is working with, it's like KLJ, yeah, KLJ to look at other funding sources to see what kind of grants and stuff are out there for that. So that, how that's paid for might change. Right now, I have it budgeted as if we're gonna borrow for it. And we can adjust accordingly. And then electrical, you'll see there's a lot of with the transmission and distribution systems in there, improvements that are going on. Questions on, we have a lot of projects. I honestly thought we'd maybe slow down a little this year. Nope, it actually grew 6 million, so. The next page as you're scrolling through just shows our debt service, and you'll see increases in that from prior year, and primarily that is a result of the RD loans finishing up and then moving into permanent financing. So those were all interest-only loans or interim financing for the last couple of years. Now they're permanent, and so there's amortization built into those. The general fund is that the sales tax bond that we took out last year. And then you'll see, water, electric, and sewer, those are paid with surcharges.
And then I did have a question from a former commissioner, not that on the RD project, and that did we make sure that we used everything up, and that's so that we did not, because the grant comes at the end.
Yes, and we are in the grant, collecting on the grant funds and sending draw requests in for those right now.
Great.
Weston also reached out to RD to confirm that there's they've got a little bit of flexibility on what they classify as water versus sewer. And so he spoke with her and we'll be moving some things around so that we can submit them to the water side of it. So we use all of those funds.
Very simple. And then changing tracks here and that. Are we doing some drawdown on the airport repairs and that?
Yep, that will, we've over the next probably 2 weeks, Barb and I will start sending in drawdown requests.
Thank you.
So that those funds are in there before year end.
Right.
Which is coming way fast as well.
Yeah.
So the next page that you have is intergovernmental transfers. So those they're not necessarily expenditures. They're how we move funds from one department to another. You'll see there's some movement for the city hall construction from the general fund into the city hall fund. You'll see 6.5% that comes out of each of the utility funds that goes into the general fund that helps with things like the community center, the pool, your donations out to other entities, those. And 6.5% is what we did last year. That's what the electric, there's a resolution or ordinance that was built out for the electric department. The last 2 years, we've followed that with the water sewer as well, though there is not currently a policy in place for that. And then there's transfers from the second cent sales tax into the general fund as well that are for improvements and upgrades, and that's how we can use those second cent funds. You'll see the last page, which I think I gave you, it's floating free. So right now we have approximately 31 million in cash funds. I like to keep us at above 20 million. I am projecting to use 7.2 million for 2024. And I'm going to recommend that you take out a bond for all the electrical upgrades, probably near the end of 2024. That will cover the new transformers, transmission lines. Nate and I spoke this morning. I'm guessing that'll probably be somewhere in a $12 to $13 million bond. But hopefully as we get close to the end of next year, we'll have a good feel for where that's really going to come in at. And it'll probably tie in pretty well with our rate study as well. So when we set that projection and expectation that's what I'm going to.
You said 31. The number I see is 3. Is it
30.
Is the number not on here?
Oh, no, sorry. That's what I'm proposing that we use from cash. That when you're looking at that 3, that's
All right.
that's what I'm proposing that we use. So of cash balances in addition to revenue and to come in. And then I'm also going to propose that we also take out additional debt for City Hall. That would be paid by sales tax. We originally estimated that to come in at 8.5 to 9 million. It's gonna probably come in closer to 12. So we could use cash. I hesitate to tell you to do that just because things are so volatile within, inflation and then expenses that are coming up that I think we're gonna see more construction projects that are gonna pop up. And I did speak with Toby this morning. He said rates are currently around 5%. He is projecting that based on what he's seeing, that value will go down towards the end of the year. And you could still make that decision to just use cash at year end if the rates went up or did something drastic, but.
And that is a decision we'd have to make till the end of the year.
Well, I will budget it one way or whichever way you tell me. If you tell me to budget it using cash, we can do that. And you can decide to bond later, or we can budget it with bonding and you could decide not to do that if you felt that it was not. Either way, I just need to know which way you prefer to see it. But those would be the two things that I would recommend to you is there's still another, using the 7.5 million, it's still gonna put us at 23,000 in cash at year end. Or cash position. You could use 3 million of that if you. But it seems like everything just keeps coming in higher and higher.
Now, would you like that decision before our first reading?
Yeah, if you want to give me some feedback, you can think about it and look at the detail and stuff, over the next, you could. Yeah, you could. Yeah, I will go with whatever you feel you want to do.
And you said the projected interest rate would then.
He said they're around between 5 and 5.25 right now, but he's anticipating based on everything he's reading that he would expect it to go down as we get closer to year end.
So you're thinking the bond, for the electric, the 12 or 13 million, and then for City Hall, all of it?
No, for City Hall, just between 1.5 to 3 million.
1.5.
Yes,
The difference between the 9 and 12.
yes,
Yeah, I got you.
yeah, exactly.
But 12 to 13 million, maybe you can help me here. Is that, most of our long range plan upgrades for the next couple of years?
That's just gonna be your transmission line, your substation upgrades. Is that southeast jumping up out of the third phase, that's gonna push that price up.
Sure.
You probably would have to go through it, but I think you're about probably have an additional 6 to 9 million underground conversions yet to finish that out.
What's your timeline on the underground conversions?
Puts on the gas, we put it all in the budget, it's built in for next year, something. As long as we got the financing for it, and depending on the rate study, how it comes back, I'd assume we stay with that 1 year until it's complete.
Other questions, comments?
I don't, that's all I've got for you. I will throw all of the detail up on the website and send you the links for it. It's about 128-page document that breaks everything out by line item. I didn't figure you wanted to scroll through that today. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Questions, comments?
How much did you budget for like the furniture and things like that?
I figured we'd probably be in the range of 500 to 750,000. Again, it's kind of a ballpark. We've kind of asked RSA, but we haven't really gotten any quotes or anything back from them. And maybe we will this next week and I can update that and clean it up a little bit, but A lot of this stuff is built in, so that helps, I think, as far as we're not gonna have a lot of freestanding, well, desks and that kind of stuff, but um, kind of a mix of both, but yeah, we don't have anything hard or concrete from them at this point.
Since we got a number of our departments here, is there any questions, comments on any of this from any of the departments here? Everybody's good?
If you have any questions or anything you want me to look at between now and next Thursday or Friday, let me know and we can get that information for you and.
Well, seeing no additional questions or comments in that, we'll take a look at public comment. I don't know if there's a tweet out there or not.
I don't think that people have forgotten. Yeah, no,
Well, I don't.
there's no public here other than the newspaper, unless you guys have a comment.
We're in good shape, so at this point in time and that, do we have a motion to go into executive session? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.
How's the fire truck, Randy?
Good,
Good.
yes, really nice. Should stop down, look at it.
I should have.
Yep. Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.